All right, here we go. All right, how's your volume? Can you hear me through the yeah, there we go. We are live. All right, sweet. Can you hear me through let's turn it off and make sure you can hear me through the computer.
Okay.
Okay. How's that, buddy? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you perfect.
Sweet. Awesome. All right, perfect. So now let me just share it out. What's up, guys? So this will be a little bit of back and forth, guys. The only thing we're dealing with is, let's see, share. Let me just make sure it puts it out there. Share on your timeline. All right, cool. So it's out. Nice. All right, cool. We are out. All right, guys. The only thing we will have is, all right, Aaron, you guys got it? Okay, awesome. Thanks, Tim. Beauty. So the only thing, guys, we're dealing with is we are going to have to go back and forth a little bit here since we had to go through the Zoom style. But special guest, Coach Chris, or Doe, known to our culture. Great to have you on, buddy. You got big shoes to fill, kid, today, being in for the boss, the ones who runs the show. And obviously now you're taking over her spot, buddy. So I wish you lots of luck, kid.
Yeah.
Excited to be on?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's we had a rocky start, but hopefully we finish stronger than we begin.
Yeah, exactly. It's how it goes. You know what? We stay dynamic and we get after it. So, guys, Coach Chris, for those of you guys that don't know, he's been with us for quite some time now. We've been working together for a few years together as a Bloodline brother, and then he's also been helping out now as a coach over the course of the last year. So it's been awesome to have him on here on the journey and getting after it, and then now being able to pass on. When we talk about, guys, the performance piece, and we try to influence, right, and put it out there of what you actually have control over, understanding mindset and how that development works. Nobody better than having Coach Chris come on. He's got a fascinating story that we might be able to get into as we go. We've talked about other ways, but for today, we're going to get on, guys, of talking about what the playoffs, right, can teach parents about their own child's performance, and being able to have a discussion. Nobody better to have it with when we get into our culture and all that stuff. So, Chris, we're going to get into it, buddy. What do you think so far, man? So now as the playoffs have gotten going, what do you think so far, brother?
Well, amazing upset, obviously, is the biggest thing that comes to mind with Tampa Bay. There's a lot to unpack there.
So much.
But, you know, I really love watching that series. I wish I went to more games. I love the grit and tenacity that Columbus played. I think before the series even started, I was telling Vince like how excited I was to watch Columbus, because there's a lot of guys on the team that I identify with and try to emulate in my game. And it was just amazing to have a team that has the best coming into the season with the best regular season record of all time, or tied for the best, to go and lose in 4 games like that is pretty incredible. And I think one of the biggest things that we learned is how, if you don't have too much adversity in your regular season, sometimes that can get you into trouble in the postseason. And I don't know if that's something that we talked about a little bit.
Yeah, it's such a huge part, right? Because that's the part when, culture, we always talk about play for that feeling, right? And I think that's the part where, from a media standpoint, from what the general public might see on that side, right? It's the reality is why we're so adamant about the mindset piece and playing for that feeling is, at the end of the day, not experiencing that feeling of adversity never tested them and never created that belief in Tampa to be able to say, you know what, we can face adversity and we believe we can get through it. And I think that was such a powerful piece to the end of the series, of where you just saw they never had that belief in themselves, right? And that's the part that so many people don't realize. Like, you can do all the drills in the world, you can do all the work in the world, and you can have all the connections in the world. And that's the part that we love about calling it the performance-based hockey, right? Is that at the end of the day, if you don't have the ability to look at yourself and believe in yourself truly in those situations, that you have this ability to get through adversity and get yourself out of it, especially from a team perspective, it's so huge. Of there's no better case than to see what just happened from a mindset perspective with Tampa going into it, right? Like, so from a player's perspective, we always talk about being able to identify, direct, and own your game, right? We always talk about the unconscious piece. And I think what was really fascinating about what happened with Tampa was taking a look at the amount of energy they put in to getting that President's Trophy, being the team, setting that record. I think people sometimes don't appreciate of how much of their mindset was towards, we believe we can do that. Like they were so all in on, come on, let's go do that, which takes so much emotional energy out of you. It spends you, right? Because it's like, we got to hit that target. We got to hit that target. And it wasn't, they didn't get into the mindset of the playoffs. Whereas Blue Jackets, they had to win their last 7 of 8. And they were in the mindset of, holy cow, we got in just by the skin of our teeth, we got in. And what that did to their emotional state of mind to be able to get in and fight for it and to be able to get in and then, okay, here we go. And they kept that playoff mode going. I think it was such a powerful piece to the mindset perspective and what we want to talk about today when it comes to understanding performance and understanding that these are the things that ultimately as a parent and as a player, you can't fake action. You can't fake where your team goes and what you do consistently. And I think that's probably the big thing, buddy, that was a big takeaway for me inside of this was huge.
Yeah, I wanted to find, just give me a quick second. There's a great quote from Yaro Kekalainen, the
Yep.
GM. I don't know whether you saw it, the GM of Columbus. He said, I think I have it here. There's some expletives, so I'll leave those out. But he said, if we had just traded Panarin for picks and Bobrovsky for picks, everybody in our fan base and city would have been like, the effing Blue Jackets. That's all they ever do is just trade picks, and they tell us that we're going to be good in the future. Just wait, be patient. No, we wanted to send a message to the fan base and the locker room that at the deadline we're serious about winning. It doesn't translate to winning, hey, I'll take the responsibility. So he was basically saying that, I don't know how many people are super up to date, but basically the 2 best players on the Blue Jackets, Artemi Panarin and Sergei Bobrovsky, said that both of them are not planning to re-sign with the Blue Jackets. And that put at the trade deadline, this borderline playoff team, it put the general manager in a very difficult position where he could either decide to trade away those players that he knows that he'll lose for nothing, most likely in free agency, to get picks to build up for the future, or he could say, you know what, I think we have a good team. Let's go all in. Let's trade for Matt Duchene. Let's make these big moves at the deadline and let's go all in. So I think that quote is really pretty neat, where he kind of says that, he wanted to send a message that, no, we're just not going to be in this cycle of always trading for our future when it looks like we're a borderline team and playing it safe like that. I wanted to change the direction of this franchise and say, let's really go for it. And he talks about in that quote how he wanted to instill belief in the locker room. And I think by making that move those moves at the deadline, instead of playing it safe, going for the long-term approach, say, okay, let's commit to a rebuild because we're probably going to lose our 2 best players come July 1st. Instead, he was like, no, let's go all in. And I think the guys in that room, that is just such a huge, powerful thing. And you want to talk about instilling belief, having your GM go out on a line for you guys and say, okay, this year we're all in, we're going for it. I mean, of course, that's the spark that you need. And at first, a lot of people were looking at it and they're kind of laughing because they didn't, the acquisitions that they got at the deadline, they didn't pay off right away. Like Matt Duchene had a rough few games. So when he got to playoffs, he's playing great. And you can see that they just have taken it to another level in the playoffs. You can see that belief is there. So I thought that was really cool. And I think that that quote was really pretty.
Sums it up.
Here. Yeah.
I think what's so powerful too about that quote is, like, if we bring it back to from a if we say from a youth hockey culture, right, of parents, what they deal with. I mean, imagine if you had from the ownerships of the organization to all the board members, to the coaches, to all the parents, if there was a belief of buy-in, right, from the organization, we're going to develop these players as best as we can, and everybody's all in, right? That they don't feel like, well, first line players get different treatment than the fourth line players. Like if there wasn't that sense of, that there's this favoritism that goes on in organizations and stuff like that. Imagine the power of what that would be if people felt that, because what you're saying there is, as professionals, right, it's a lot easier to look at it from that perspective of, hey, you know what, we all do our own part, and here's our boss, our GM, coming in and saying, you know what, I believe that you guys can do this. How much that ignites and inspires them, right? Because they all do their job. You're not dealing with a bunch of, I'm not going to work, I'm not going to do this. This is their pay to do that, right? So they have a job to do. But to have somebody, the leader, to come in and say, listen, I believe in this group, we can do this, let's get after it. Imagine if parents had that trust and that belief in their organization, their team culture that they had. Imagine if players, younger players, had that full trust and belief. Imagine if coaches had that full trust and belief in parents, in their ownership. If ownership had that, like, it's such a powerful piece to something that is so important and overlooked inside of the culture of the youth part, where for parents, they have to deal with the reality of, a lot of times coaches don't know how to manage a culture like that, where you have so many different beliefs of parents. Well, I believe my little Johnny is amazing and all that stuff, but where's the proof? Where's the proof that your little Johnny has that, or that your little Johnny is all in? So there's these factors that everybody has to go with, but imagine how powerful that would be. And from an organizational standpoint, you had that feeling and that sense inside where, wow, they truly believe in me as a family. Like, from a family standpoint, like, imagine if that was out there more often and you were all in. Like, that's the beauty of the playoffs, is that you can't fake that action. And a lot of times when you talk about owners, when you talk about coaches, how they run cultures at the youth level, the reality is, and when you talk about parents and their influence on how they do it, all those factors are the top, bringing it down to the players and how they feel. And so it's interesting to see how that connection, right, how that connection to this whole piece of where in the playoffs you see it with professionals of how it goes, but at the youth level, man, imagine if there was more of that belief of, yep, this is what we have, everyone, we're going to develop everybody, we're all in together. Imagine what that would create inside of a youth culture if we could get ourselves to that feeling inside, which I think very few people, and anyone, parents that are watching, if you have that, if you've experienced that with your culture, please comment, let us know below. But imagine what that feeling would be like and what that would do for the development of players in a youth culture if that feeling existed, of what you just described, of what that GM was saying and all that. Did you hear me, buddy?
Yeah, I heard you. I thought you were saying, sorry.
No, imagine what that would.
Oh yeah, no, to have that buy-in is just like, it would be incredible to have each one of the players to be completely all in like that. It would be, it's so rare to have, and always, as you said, like, it's one example I have is there's a coach that I played for, and I had lots of other buddies play for. I'm not going to name names, but I think you know him, and I think you'll know once I get going. But his approach always is, and this is kind of how it goes in juniors, but his approach always is to just constantly be looking to bring in players. And he's one of the most active guys that in season, he never stops, always bringing in players. And he'll say if he's in the North American League now. When I was with him, he was in the Eastern Hockey League, but he was always looking to get guys from the higher leagues, whether when he was with me, whether it was with the North American League, getting guys down from there, or now when he's now with the North American League, getting guys down from the USHL. And it's just this constant revolving door. And he's an absolutely great coach. Like, X's and Y's, he's phenomenal. He's one of the best I ever had in that sense. But the problem with playing for him is that unless you're one of those few guys that are safe, you never feel like you feel way too replaceable, and you never feel like he's at all into developing you as a player or moving on you. And the whole reason why any kid plays junior hockey is to move on to the next level, right? So no one's doing it to win a championship. I mean, winning a championship is great, right? But that's not why you're playing junior hockey. And so you always feel like this coach might win championships, and he's great at that. And everywhere he's been, he's done well in terms of winning and losing. But are you going to be developed as a player? How long are you even going to be there? Because he's always going to bring in that guy. So, and I think that, those guys, I think a lot of players really struggle with that and really are unhappy with that, and end up not liking him or wanting to get out of that situation or whatever. I did. I really liked him, even, and I asked to be traded to get out of there, just because I thought, at least I can leave on my terms this way when I was for him. I felt like, I felt like at that time we had a good group of guys that if he kept it all the same, we probably could have won the league. And so, definitely when you don't feel that buy-in to you as a player, you don't feel like the coach or the general manager or whoever involved really believes in you, it really, as a player, it makes it very hard to be confident and to play your best. And I think
the trust
individually, because the trust just isn't there. And that
trust so huge
experience with him. And that's the experience with a lot of the players that I know that's played for him.
Oh yeah. And that's one of the biggest misconceptions about Torts that's out there. And we've talked about this before, right? Of where people think the persona they see on the media and TV, oh, he's a dick, he's this and that, he's so hard to play for. And it couldn't be further from the truth. Like, I've read between books and articles and all that stuff, and it's like, actually, it's on the contrary. Players love him. Like, he's demanding, he's tough, but at the same time, though, he's very individual in his approach. Like, he's very much like cares about you. He's working through it. So people in general think like, oh, they see these couple clips and, oh, that guy's an idiot and this, that. But they don't realize, though, the bond that he develops with them is actually very strong. Is he demanding? Yes. But does he develop a crazy bond with them? Absolutely. Like the way they talk about Gallant, I love all the stuff I read about him with Vegas. Like, everyone talks about how, oh yeah, he will scream at you, he will go nuts, he'll hold you super accountable. But the players love playing for him because I can't wait to get to the rink. I love practices. I love being around there. That's that feeling, right? That's where we talk about the X's and O's of you can press till you're blue in the face of this is the best stuff. This is the best things you need to do. Here's the how-to guide. But if the person running the ship doesn't make you feel that they truly believe in you, that they're truly invested in you, that they truly care about you as a human being, it's just not going to work. And I think that's the part that's so fascinating about right now with tryouts that are going on and all of that. It's like, I think one of the things that's so telling before we move into some of the other stuff about when we talk about that piece of how players want peace of mind. And I thought John Cooper quote was an excellent one. We've talked about this a couple of times now in a couple of different sessions, but parents, players, coaches, we hear this quote, and how powerful is this quote from John Cooper? So he talked about in general, this was in The Athletic, and he talked about in general of during the playoffs, here's how it goes of how you have to manage the players, right? Perspective. So he talked about how there's so many little details to the game and there's assignments and you want to be on it with your players. For me, the players want it, right? The players want this. What he was talking about is that they want comfort in the message. They want the feedback. And what he's saying is the players, they want to know what they have to do, where they have to do it, when they have to do it, because it's calming for them. They don't want to guess. And so it's our job to make sure they feel good about themselves in that way. That's an NHL coach talking about professional players on why that's so important for that the players, they want to know when they have to, what they have to do, where they have to do it, when they have to do it, because it's calming for them. They don't want to guess. And that's so telling of inside the youth culture, everything we deal with our players. like Orta, you could talk about your experience of how much easier did it feel after we went through our process where you knew this is what I need to do to have high quality results. You didn't need a coach, you didn't need anybody else. You felt it of like, I'm seeing the results. So I knew, I believed in myself on, I know this is what I do. And how calming was it for you as a performer to be able to look at it and know, talk about that experience, because you can straight up talk about of you
Yeah.
went through it as a bloodline brother. Talk about how much easier did it make it as a young player. And again, when we talk about youth, guys, I don't look at youth as until you're playing in the NHL, you're youth to me. College, it doesn't matter. It's all a part of the same thing. Until you're doing this for a living and it's your job, you are a youth player. So in that context, I don't care if you're 10 years old, I don't care if you're 25 years old, it all falls into the same category of understanding that in order to really know your game, you have to know inside out why you're doing something, what you're doing, and see the results. But nobody can speak to this better than Chris. And so tell us a little bit about that part of like what you realize so parents can understand truly from a player's perspective of this is why it's so important. Like this is why it's calming for you as a performer.
Yeah, I mean, for me, a big knock against my game was that I didn't move the puck well, and that I didn't pass well. Wasn't a great playmaker. All those types of comments. I used to get that a lot, and I don't think, and it really was a lack of ability to do that. I mean, we did, yes, work on kind of fundamental skill and different things to make, just my base better, my fundamentals better. We did work that and it did improve. But I think what helped me more was becoming aware of what my strengths were as a player and being able to simplify my game around those strengths. And when we were able to figure out what those strengths were and simplify my game, it gave me a direction that allowed me to have a simple, clear, direct plan with simple plays that I know I could make consistently. And by training that and by simplifying my game and by eventually implementing it in games, it's exactly what he said. It was calming. It made the game easier. It made me not try to be, oh, do I have to do this or whatever, and panic and not make great plays. And then all of a sudden, by executing on these simple plays and by simplifying my game, I was able to, start moving the puck much better. And I started making the plays, and people wouldn't say anymore, oh, he's not a great passer. Oh, he doesn't see the ice well, or he doesn't have a great, sense of the game, or all those typical, he doesn't have hockey sense, all those typical things that people would say about me suddenly went away because I had that direction. So, and that feeling, I mean, it just made you don't panic in situations if you know what you're gonna be doing. If you know you have a play that that you can execute on, you don't panic. So that was definitely the case for me, just by simplifying my game and identifying what my strengths were as a player and being able to execute on those things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the part of our process, right? Of what we always try to hone in on, right? Is that what happens so many times with performers, right? And it's awesome, guys. Like, again, if you really talk about as a parent, how you really want to help your child from a performance standpoint, what Coach Chris just talked about was it's trusting in an identity and committing to that identity.
Yeah.
That's the number one thing we see lacking in universally across the board with players. And we have, I know Aaron Wilbur, I will get to the buddy of like, he's in our Own My Game system and he's in there and he sees it of like, we just get players to just buy into one thing inside of our culture just to start with, just to see the results, just to see like, wow, if I just focus in on one high performance target, like this is my identity, this will work, it's natural for me, this will work. It's incredible to see the power of what it does to players of inspiring them to want to do more work, inspiring them to want to believe and trust in, wow, I can do this, at least this one play that works. And that's the name of the game from a parenting perspective of if you're trying to influence your young performance, understand identity. right? What's your self-image that you know works, that you're confident, that you trust, that instinctively this works for me? When I go into the game, I don't have to think about this. This is just something that naturally I'm going to do because I know I do it. I see proof. Coach has told me. I have another coach that I work with. I have teammates that tell me all the time, man, you're really good at that. Coach Chris can attest to that. When we first started working together, I'll never forget about 6, 7, 8 weeks into it. I remember saying to him how, man, you have a really legit shot. And it was like so funny. Like he probably even forgets this a little bit of like, and now he's just refreshing. You see the smile on his face instinctively right now of where it was like, man, your shot's legit. He's like, you really think so? Like a young, wow, you really think so? And it's like, dude, your shot's legit. And it wasn't until about 5 or 6 weeks later, I remember he was like, we were hanging out with the boys and we were all hanging out together. And it was crazy. Like some of the guys were telling me, I had the goalie tell me, yeah, your shot's legit. I had players on the team. Oh my God, your shot's legit. He didn't even know. He had no idea how it was like, your shot is legit. And so imagine all those years walking around where you've got this piece of gold that you're walking around with, and he didn't even know it. He had no idea that was the one thing of like, no, that's your gold. And it was amazing to watch the transformation of how once he understood and believed and trusted and go, oh my God, yeah, I do have a great shot. Boom. Now we went to work around, well, how can I get myself in positions to create and use that shot more often? And because of that, that allowed him to clear away the noise of other stuff that he didn't need to do. Literally, what we said in the beginning of the process, literally, and he can attest to it, we literally said, you're done thinking about passing. You're not going to pass the puck. That was the irony of our whole thing. And we've talked about this before, and parents that have been watching the Parent Trap for a while, we literally said, you're done passing. We're going to do nothing with passing. Everything we're going to build around your performance right now is going to be based around how to get in positions to shoot, because your shot is gold. And the irony was, after it was all done, he suddenly became a good passer because of the process we put in, where it calmed him. Like Coach John Cooper said, it calmed him. He saw the results. He believed, he trusted in his own instincts and his own ability to then realize, okay, this is what I do. This is my game. And by seeing that unfold, it was unbelievable. And I've talked about your story millions of times, right? It's of where it was unbelievable. I didn't know that what was about to happen was his passing actually became good because of that. So imagine, we literally did not work on any passing. We went all in on his performance with shooting. And next thing you know, he comes back the next season. It's like, oh my God, he knows how to pass the puck. And it was an incredible experience for me to go through as a coach and as a performance coach, especially from a mindset perspective, where it showed me the truth of one thing, layering on, understanding your identity, because it calmed him. Like he said, it calmed him to realize, wow, this is who I am. This is what I do. And because it calmed his nervous system, right? We've talked about before, the parasympathetic we got him to chill out. It opened up his ability to create. Then when he played, where it's like, okay, I got this. Oh, there's the guy, he's open. There wasn't this intensive, I got to pass. There was, oh, there's a pass, make it. And that was the part that never saw coming. And as a coach, it was unbelievable to transform my perspective and it helped to understand and believe even more in why this form of development was so important from an unconscious level, because to watch you transform the way you did was like, oh my God, never saw that, never realized that. And so it was unbelievable to watch it. But at the core of all of this, the message to parents and to players, when even coaches right there watching, is that it's amazing how, again, you have to be able to trust not only the sources of who you're talking to, who you're dealing with, but you got to be able to trust yourself. And the only way to trust yourself is to commit. It's to commit to something. It's to commit to an identity, to have a self-image and say, yes, I believe that this is what I do because I see the results. I believe in myself. I know this is what I can do naturally. I'm not trying to convince myself that I'm going to go play like Johnny Gaudreau when I don't have the skill set. No, I'm trying to identify, no, this is what I do. Like, this is what I naturally, instinctively do. So I believe in myself, so I can go do that. And that's the name of the game of performance development, unconscious development. And that, I think that's a part, Chris, like, yeah, you talk more about that, of where for parents and players to realize how important that fundamental is that what are you committing to? What do you trust that you truly can do? And start with that. and build your framework from that as a performer, rather than just kind of, I think I need to do this. I think. No, you build off of what you know.
Yeah. No, it's a million percent the case, and the thing that I think shouldn't lose sight of is that it doesn't matter what it is, whatever your strength is, it's important. It's something that's valuable, and to keep with the theme of playoffs, I mean, something that you see all the time is, teams that are going for it, they make deadline deals for just guys that are fourth liners that just have a special sort of element that they need. You see that all the time. And it could be a guy that it could be a guy like Justin Williams, who's been in a million one places. They just add him because they know he's a playoff performer. Or it could be like a fourth liner like Leo Komarov, or I mean, he wasn't a deadline guy, but he was someone that added to give depth, right? For the Islanders, it could just be it could be anything. It could be someone that's just physical, or someone that gets under the skin of the opponent, or whatever that strength is. Whatever it could be, sometimes it could be an intangible, like a way that you play that's kind of like energy, or it could be a more of a tangible skill set that you add. But it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, if you can base your game around that, I mean, that can first of all, it'll give you confidence, and it'll give you something that makes you unique and stand out and gives you value. And I fully believe that that's the most important thing that you can do as a player. And I see all the time guys that plateau at levels are the ones that are just pretty good at everything. Just kind of like plain vanilla, like plain white rice kind of a player. It's just like they're passable in every category, but not exceptional in any. Those players can be great at one level, but can't get to the next. Yeah. And you see it at every single level. Mm-hmm. Guys that are just really good at that level, but just can't seem to get to the next level. I think it's almost always because of that, that they just don't have an identity as a player. Because if you have a really strong identity and you're great at something, somebody's going to want you because they need that on their team. Exactly. Because there's no one in the world that's great at everything, that's the best at shooting, passing, bringing energy, hitting, playing physically. It's tough. It gets under the skin. No one in the world has ever been like that. In the NHL or any other level, no one's been the best, or in any other sport, no one's been the best at everything they do. Exactly. But there are players that are the best at what they do, and those are the ones that and those are the ones that play at the highest level. Ovechkin has the best shot. McDavid has the best speed. Johnny Gaudreau has the best hands, or one of them. But Tom Wilson gets under the skin better than anyone else. It doesn't matter what it is. Thomas Holmstrom, he was a player I idolized for a long time. Oh. He was the best in front of the net.
Couldn't skate.
He couldn't stick handle it, but he played with Datsuk and Zetterberg, but he was the best in front of the net. He played with Datsuk and Zetterberg
for example.
5 years.
Great example. Phenomenal.
And he played on the power play first unit with Datsuk, Zetterberg, and Lindstrom, and whoever the other partner was with Lindstrom. I mean, and that's, but he was the best at the world at deflecting pucks, and was the best at burying home rebounds right in front of the net. So it doesn't matter what what it is that you're basing your game around. If you have something, which everyone does, find it, and that's what you got to build your game around.
Yeah, exactly. And hey, guys, remember, if you're loving this, guys, please make sure we'll get into questions in a second here. We'll get after it. I know you guys are putting comments and stuff like that, but please share, likes, loves, comments. What do you guys think? Right, the whole point is to have a discussion. But couldn't agree more, brother. It's everything you hit on right there, and it leads it perfectly into what we were talking about earlier, and a post I put up yesterday that was so important. I wanted to see the reaction of what people had, but at the end of the day, everything you just described, at the core of what we do, what really drives why it's so important to be aware of understanding who you are, what your natural strengths are, what your identity is. It's because of a sustainable feeling. When you talk about the playoffs, there's a lot of pressure that's in the playoffs. So in order to be able to sustain a feeling, you truly have to believe in who you are. And the only way to believe in who you are is to know I've seen the results. I trust this is who I am. I know this is what I do. And it's not something that's really difficult for me to do. I just do it. So this way, when I'm dealing with all the pressure around me, which is young players dealing at tryouts, thinking they have to impress. I've got USA people going to USHL combines right now, all this. What can I do to impress? And it's like, no, it's not about what you can do to impress. Remember, stick to your natural identity. Why? Because it's a sustainable feeling. And nothing's more prime example. I love how yesterday, so I posed the question and I asked, will to win or love to win? Right? And because that's a big part that I think, and again, it's all a matter of perspective of how you see it, right? But the will to win versus love to win are two very different things. And when it comes to winning, and I think that was one of the things that, we had discussed earlier about when we talk about sustainable feeling, I draw from my experience of, if I look at it as the will to win, I see Marissa just came on. Hey, babe. Hello. So when I look at it from that perspective, right? When I think of the idea of will to win versus love to win, and I think about it in a playoff context, my perspective, and I'm looking forward to hearing your perspective as well, buddy, is that my perspective on it's like this. In my life total, between on the ice hockey, in the streets in Philly, even times at the school where I wish I didn't do it, I've probably been in about a total of about 70 to 80 fights, right? Where just in the street, whatever it is, like of just battles that went on the ice, right? The battles that you get into. And when I think back on all those fights, there was a lot of times where you're like, you get this like instinct of you're afraid and you're scared, but you do it. Like you still have this, like, I got to survive instinct that kicks in. And that was one of the things that I never liked that energy, because I never loved that energy, because it brought something out of me that I didn't like. Like it wasn't a good energy that brought out of me, right? It was like when I was fighting, it was to survive and want to kill you. Like I don't like feeling that, right? Whereas when I think about a guy like John Morasti that I played with, he genuinely loved to fight. Like I remember playing with him in Bakersfield, and it was like he couldn't wait. He's pumping himself up. He couldn't wait for the next game just to grab somebody and fight him. And he just couldn't wait and loved it. But he was unbelievable. You guys, you can YouTube him on stuff. This guy was a complete gem and beauty. But what a nut. But he loved it. He loved it. And the point is, I guess, that when you look at it from that perspective, is love to win versus will to win. I look at it as the will to win was when I was in that moment to fight, my will kicked in of, okay, that's it. I got to survive. I got to get you. Right. But it wasn't like the sustainable where you could just drop me anytime, like the way you could drop John Morasti. And Morasti was like, come on, let's go. He just, okay, let's have a fight. And I'm going to still try to rip your head out because I love it. So I always kind of looked at it as that will of where it was like, in that sense, for me, it wasn't sustainable, because when I go to fight, my will takes over of, I want to go get you. But in the playoffs, for a young performer, you can't sustain that, because it's like, it comes from this place that's like, if you don't love it and it's not something that's in there, you can't do it. But where I look at it from a sustainable feeling, where when you love to win and you lost game one or game two, you're trying to figure out, okay, how can we win? You want to be competitive. You want the team, let's come together. How can we do this? That's kind of like with parents, players, coaches in the youth culture of, you're trying to figure out, when you love to win, it's this love of, okay, how do we get there together? As opposed to will is like, we got to win. It's like this, it's like almost like a more me over we kind of concept, where I feel like love to win creates this like, come on, we got to figure this out together. And that's kind of like my perspective of where I kind of see the two. So I'm a more love to win. And I thought it was fascinating. A couple people that actually said love to win. There was only 3 of the like 40 so far that have said it. So that's the perspective that I carry of why I love to win over will to win, because it's sustainable But what I thought was fascinating was the few people that actually commented on love to win was Billy McCreary, who's won championships at the pro level and at the junior level, and Dave McIsaac, who I know he won a national championship with Maine, and I'm pretty certain he won two championships at the pro level. I think he won a Calder Cup, and I think he ended up winning at the minor pro level with Danbury as well. So he's won championships. So it's cool to see the two of the three were people that actually were a part of, and then one parent as well, whose child I think she has actually a sporting background as well, but who said also love to win. And what's interesting was seeing that these are people that won multiple championships. And I think that's the part of, in order to really win, and that's not saying there was people that said will to win also. My boy Nathan Lutz, he jumped in on will to win. But from my perspective, I felt like it was the love is sustainable. The will is more like in the moment, and you got to get through it, and you can do it in that moment. But can you actually sustain that feeling over multiple games to win a playoff series? Can you sustain that feeling over multiple years? Because you're going to have to grind it out to get to where you want to be in hockey or any career, right? It's, you got to really love the feeling of it, love the feeling of winning and succeeding, versus the will of this. I'm in this moment, I got to survive. That's kind of my perspective, and I'd love to hear what your perspective and what you think and all that stuff, buddy.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I think whenever you're just willing something, you're kind of forcing it. Whether you're in the gym and it's like that last set and you're just trying to will it to happen, it's because you're kind of spent, right? But when you're just loving it and you're relaxed, and it's just, you just make it happen, and it's easy. It's like what John Cooper was saying, it's calming. And I think, to put a visual on it, we were talking about this earlier, was in the handshake line after Columbus swept Tampa. You just saw that Panarin just full on smile, full happy. Sure everyone has seen that picture or the video of it. And it's, if there was ever a contrast between someone trying to will it and someone trying to, and someone just loving it, there you go. That's kind of
so true.
That's kind so of true. That's kind of sums it up in my mind. Yeah.
So I love that, right? Because it's like you said, easy, right? It's that feeling of easiness that you like, even when we're grinding it out, we still show up because we love it. Like you want to keep learning, you want to keep getting better because you're just waiting for that taste of success. And you just love that process of, you're fully aware of, yeah, you know what, it was tough for a couple months, but man, now it feels so good, right? It's like, whereas a lot of times people are forcing it. Come on. And
it's like the if you're willing it, then the only thing you care about is the destination. If you're loving it, then you're enjoying the journey.
All of it. You're accepting all of it that goes with it, right? Yeah. And I think that's the part of where, when you look at the perspective of what happened between Tampa, and again, obviously from that end, guys, what happens is when the playoffs come around, I wish I had more time, but with the kids and the players and all that stuff, don't have enough time to study a lot of series. So I was all in on that series this round. Next round, I'll pick another one. Hopefully it's no, it wouldn't happen next round. It would, yeah. Hopefully it's Islanders and Washington, because I love to be all in on that series.
All in on Washington.
Oh, I want to see that series. I want to see that one. But, in studying Tampa and seeing what happened there, is that, you saw it was so clear between Tampa and the Blue Jackets. Tampa was all in on, their emotional energy was spent on being the Presidents, beating the record. We want to be that team to take the record. And so I think they got caught up in the hoopla and, oh my God, can you imagine? No team has ever done that. Wow. And I think they got caught up. That's why Play for That Feeling is so important, is that their emotional energy, in order to, think about that. When you're one of the best at what you do in the world, the amount of energy that takes to keep sustaining that is a lot. And it was easy for them and it felt good and they loved it. But then when it was time to change over and say, it's playoffs time, it's playoffs now, they went up against an opponent who was now 3 weeks in, that was ready, that was excited, pumped up, and they changed. And like you said, I would have loved also to see what happened if it kept going. What happened if you gave Tampa the time to be able to come back and say, okay, hey, this is real now. Let's get going. I genuinely believe the same thing. I think they just ran out of time. They didn't have enough time to get that juice going and go, okay, we got to figure this out. I think it was like they were just getting punched, bam, 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 bam. It was like, oh my God, like, whoa, what's going on? And when you hear so many coaches and players talk about it moves so fast, the energy in the playoffs is so fast. Like once you get down, getting yourself back up is so hard because that animal instinct, that belief, that collective, right, that quantum energy that we like to talk about here, that belief that happens in the Blue Jackets was like animal instinct of we can do this. Whereas with Tampa, it was, oh my God, come on, we gotta get there. And because they didn't have anything in the bottle to understand how to do it, like I truly believe if Tampa got one game, it would have changed. It would have helped them believe, okay, here's how we beat them. But they never got that one game to feel this is how we need to do it. They never got that. And that's why I feel like what ended it so quickly was they just came out pop, 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 like Mike Tyson style. It was like Jackets just came out bam, 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 bam over the course, 5, 6, 7 days. And it was just like, oh my God, what do we do? And they didn't get a chance to just get back up, shake it off and go, okay, here we go. And I felt like that's what played in big time from a mindset perspective. But that's that sustainable feeling we talk about of why loving it and understanding these pieces, these fundamental realities are so important to a player's development, and for parents to understand that's what you're searching for when you're talking about high pressure situations. When you're talking about, because identifying, directing, and own my game only comes down to being able to actually identify who am I naturally, directing, believing that this is what I'm going to commit to so I can make it unconscious and I could just do it without thinking about it. And then owning it, to be able to say, yep, right now, these are the mistakes I made, address it, right? Assess and address, and then get back after it. But that's the parts where, especially at the youth level, the accountability is so low. Who's accountable for what? It's the coach's fault. It's the parents' fault. It's the ownership's fault. It's this, I'm playing on this line. It's so easy to pass the buck because what are you committing to? Who's committing to what? And that's such an important piece that you see inside of when we talk about loving it, sustaining it, having a self-image. I think that's the biggest part that's missing at the youth level, is that the commitment. Well, that's why we talk about standard. What do you actually commit to? Right? And like you think about that part.
Yeah, for sure. I think another story that I told you before, but something that really helped me is when I think it was my U14 year. I had a coach that he had me play the same role going back to the Thomas Holmstrom, like playing in front of the net. And it was something like I wasn't a good skater at all. I didn't move that well. I wasn't, I wasn't great in too many other areas, but that was something that gave me that made me love the game because it was something I was good at, and it helped me get through the process and keep playing it in a time when I might have otherwise have been discouraged playing hockey. It made me really have that love for the game, and keep going. And I think going back, just having that direction, having that love, and not just will to get on to the next level, having the love to play because you have this thing that you're good at and that that you can do. That's what makes development and moving on to the next level and progressing and all of that easier. If you don't have
sustainable.
Yeah. And if you're just going in it always with you think, oh, if I get to this next level, then I'm going to be, happy, and then I'm going to be ready. It's not going to last because there's always a higher level. There's always a next step. It's just, and the amount of work that you have to do and the amount of dedication you have to put in, it just increases as you move up levels. And if you think you're working hard now, just wait till you get to my point where this is my job and this is like all that I do, and I have to. Hey, Marissa, I'll stop talking. You can hop in here.
Keep going.
No. Where I have to work, where like I'm at the point where like this is everything I do, and I'm worrying about what I eat. How long I sleep. Like I'm in the gym twice a day. I'm on the ice once every day. I this is I'm all in on this, and this is all that I do. Right? Is like I do this type of stuff, and I train for hockey, and it's like so. Eventually, if you keep on progressing, if you don't love it, you get to my point, and I mean it would be miserable. But I love what I do, and that's how I can keep going. So that's why, yeah. If you don't love, you have to love to win, and then love what you do. And if you're ever willing it, you're gonna hit a cliff and a breaking point at one point, where you just it's like this is it's just
100%.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. It's so true. That's the sustainable feeling we're talking about, right? Because you have to be willing to go through all the other crap because you just love it that much. And I love, but let's get to a couple of comments here. I love Michael Ormaner's comment here of this game is very mental as well. Confidence boosters, right? What is the best way to prepare your son? Found a good book and recommendation. I think I talked about the book, but this game is very mental. Here's where we make the argument, and of course we've talked about this many times before, right? Of where this game is way more mental than physical, and here's why. Here's the argument we always make of why it's so important. Of we don't put enough emphasis on the mental. We put so much of an emphasis on the physical. So players will go out, get in the gym, get stronger. They'll go shoot pucks. They'll stick handle, and they're automatically going to think that because they'll get skating lessons. These are all physical acts that they're developing, right? They're developing their physical bodies, my shot, my hands, all this stuff. So as long as I keep doing this stuff, that automatically translates to me being a better hockey player or a performer. It couldn't be further from the truth. The example we always give is that we'll challenge a player. And so far, I've never had one person say otherwise, right? And I've probably asked this at least 500 to plus times, this question. Who would you rather have on your team going into a season? Would you rather have the player who does everything right, works out in the gym, shoots pucks every day, stick handles, does everything, eats right, is an absolute animal, right? But when that person plays, when they actually perform in the game, they make the worst decisions. They have no idea what they're doing out there, and they're just clueless. Or would you take the other player who is lacking strength, doesn't really have much in the arsenal, but when you watch this player, Macker, I see you. I don't know if you're watching, buddy. I'll hit you back. But when you see this player, just looks frail, doesn't take care of themselves. Still good. Also, same thing, good kid and all that stuff, but makes amazing decisions with the puck. Just knows how to play the game the right way. Plays the game the right way. Who are you picking? The one that does all these things and is so physically, oh my God? Or are you picking the one who makes the right decisions all the time and just knows how to play the game? And most people, if you ask that question honestly, you're going to take the one that just knows mentally how to play the game. And so that's the argument that you'll make on that, right? Is obviously we want both. It only amplifies that and makes it that much better. But the point is that the game is way more mental because of the performance piece. Most performers, most coaches, most anybody is going to take, well, that person just knows how to play the game. That's mental. That's not a physical thing. They just understand the essence and they know how to make the right decisions. They know the rules. They know how to play the game. And most people are going to take that person over to the other, right? If character is all the same, right? It's still good people. But at the end of the day, if you compared one to the other, I'm going to take the one that makes better choices and better decisions and just has a better mentality for the actual performance itself.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. That's
the argument we make. Why mental is so much stronger because of that.
Yeah.
So, beauty, Michael. Love that, buddy. Aaron, I appreciate these conversations every week. Yeah, challenge people to flip the paradigm. Yeah. Again, perspective. You don't have to agree with it, but we've seen that it works, right, with what we do in our culture. So as much as we can pass on and put it out there, that's the name of the game here, right? Is just to be able to be out there and talk about these things that are real, that we've seen just incredible results with, right? Danielle, thank you very much. Yeah, that's the idea. Put it out there. Joseph, Pastor, got the message last night. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. I know. I didn't catch it on that end. Good morning, guys. Carl, Joseph, Carl, thank you for jumping on. Awesome. Loves the dual monitors. Danielle, good morning. Aaron, awesome. Tim, thank you. Yeah, guys. So, again, right? Why do we do this? Why do we jump on? It's parents, players. You guys watch this, right? The idea, and having Chris on was awesome, right? Because he lived it. He went through it. Is because at the end of the day, you have to be able to identify, direct, and own my game. I am what I do. But at the core of it is playing for that feeling. Who are you as a player? Understand the identity, because the playoffs is the ultimate stressor. The playoffs means that now there's no time, there's no room for anything other than natural, unconscious performance. By now, you spent 6 months doing what you do. Playoffs come around, your identity as a team, your identity as a performer, you are what you are. Right now, the equivalent, tryouts. Players have gone into tryouts. You didn't get the summer to go train and change your identity. Your tryout was based off of what? The last 6 months that you proved to the coaching staff, to whoever else, you're getting judged on the body of work that you just put together the last 6 months. So when you go into tryouts, it's in essence, use the label, it's like your playoff. You're now trying to prove that what I've shown you, I've learned unconsciously, what I've plugged into my game, what I do as a performer. When you go into that with that tryout, that's it. It's like you're going to the playoffs. Coach knows. You're either going to show you want to make this team, and you're either going to show that you believe and you want to be there, or you're going to go to the tryout and you're going to go more of, well, last year you didn't like me, so now I don't like you, so I don't have that feeling. I don't really have that drive. I really don't want to be there. I really don't want to be on this team. Your that desire, that belief you has inside, you can't fake that action in the tryout. So when coaches look at that and see how you present yourself, you can't fake it. You can't fake what you just did over the last 6 months. You can't fake what you believe, how badly you want it. You can't fake that energy. You're either going to show, I want to be on this team, or you're not going to show you want to be on this team based off of just your spiritual energy of what you show. And that's the part where, as a performer, why it's so important to have shows like this and to bring on Coach Chris. We're going to have him more often, right? To get after it is that we need to talk about this side of it, is that it's about sustainable performance. It's about loving the feeling inside, not willing and forcing what we do. It's about picking the one thing that's like, I love this part of it, and I'm going to hang on to this one part of it because I just love it. And the other parts are just the other parts. The other parts are a part of it. If you're saying you want to be a part and you want to be a high-level performer in anything you do, any sport you play, any job you take, anything, if you decide to have a family, all that stuff, it's all a part of it. You've got to accept it. So you've got to remember, what's that one thing that I just love about it? If you can find that, what's that one thing I love about my game? What's natural about my game that I just love? I can buy into. This is who I am. If you can have that, it makes everything else easier to manage. But if you never have what that one thing is, it makes this journey impossible. It makes it impossible. So that's the idea of why having this and talking about this, is that we're watching this actually happen and transform our players in our culture. We know it works. Right? And as we keep going on and on with this, it only gets stronger because we see what happens to players after 3 months, 6 months, a couple of years, the transformations that occur by doing this. Because every one of our players are dealing with the same stress that everyone else out there is dealing with. We're all dealing with the same exact things you're dealing with. But the difference is we know who we are. We know our strengths. We know our commitment. We know what brings us the results that we want. And so along the way, you deal with all the other bullshit with it, because I know, listen, hey, I found my natural calling with this. I accept it for what it is. I'm aware of what I need to do. I hold myself accountable to it, right? And I adapt to any new situation that I go through, because it's the way it is. You accept it for what it is. So, Coach, anything else? I know, buddy, have anything else to add, man, on it and stuff like that? Finish up.
No, I mean, I think that the heart of play for that feeling is experiencing that feeling of loving what you do, and I think that's really ultimately what it's all about, and that's why we do this, and that's why we're into hockey, and the core of it is that's why we're into hockey, because it's just yeah.
Yep. Amen. Awesome. Well, guys, Coach, thank you. Coach still playing, all that stuff. Thank you very much. for jumping on today. This was awesome. Had a blast. Parents, players, coaches, anybody has any questions, make sure, let us know. Again, guys, a couple things we have going. I know that Marissa will be proud of me of doing this, but we have, guys, coaching cert is going to be coming up this off season. So if you're a coach looking to jump in, we have that coming up, guys, to learn how to actually implement this with your players, how to, again, understand yourself better. These are the things that we've done that has helped us to transform as performers and how to handle the stress that we know we deal with. And then players as well. We're creating our transformation teams. If you're interested, if you're a player that's looking to understand how to utilize these concepts and how to focus more on the mental side of the game, right? Because there's lots of stuff out there in the physical part. We help guide you to understand how to use the mental side, how to actually train it, how to put that together. If you're a player or if you're a parent listening and you want your player involved, you can apply now. Again, just comment interested one way or the other. If you're interested in the coaching, sir, if you're interested in the player part, that's coming up shortly, guys. We've got that coming up in the next, I believe, 5-6 weeks. So we're building the teams out. So if you're a player that wants to jump on, we have programming going on. Apply. It's not open to everybody. We do have an application process to make sure that you're ready to do what needs to be done inside of it, stuff like that. So again, if any of that resonates with you, if you love this show, you want to learn more about it, let us know. And then, yeah, guys, if you're just watching the replay of this and you just have any questions based off the content that we had, please make sure to ask questions, fire away. That's what this is all about. And hope you understand this perspective works. These things like love, right? Like understanding who you are, playing for that feeling, right? This is all sustainable. That's the idea of why we influence and why we talk about this. And what we want people to understand is this is sustainable. And that's the idea. It's not about just going and coming up with one outcome and going, okay, that's it, I made it and I did everything I need to do. No, it's a lifestyle. You have to just live this. In order to live it, you've got to be able to identify certain parts of why do you want to live this? Why do you want this to be a part of your life? And when you can do that, performance is easy. We're all going to deal with negative energy and tough situations and adversity. But when you have the things to come back to, the why, right? That's the most powerful thing that there is. So you got to love it, like Coach said earlier. So yeah, thank you guys for jumping on. Looking forward. We'll keep on going. And here we go. We'll keep on driving away. And let's see, Ordo. Let's see how tonight looks, man. Some big games going on tonight, buddy.
Big ones. Oh, yeah.
Awesome. All right, guys. Let us know. I'm off to go work out. Coach, I'll see you later, brother. Catch you soon.
All right.
See you.